Hello, everyone. My name is Stanley St. Rose, and today we're going to be talking about On Being Crippled by Nancy Mairs. Now, before I go into the summary analysis of this work, please remember to leave a like, subscribe, and/or comment so that the channel can continue to grow. So, in this essay, Nancy Mairs is telling us about her life as an individual that is disabled, or she likes to use the word crippled. And she gives us a view on how she sees the world and how the world sees her. When you're living with a disability, society views you as different. Society labels you in a different way than it would someone who doesn't have a disability. So it's a very interesting perspective on how she views the world and how the world affects her, and how she views herself and her disability. The essay begins with her at her office building, and she's a writer, she's a teacher, and basically, she's in her office building, she's using the bathroom, and she falls backwards after she's done using the bathroom, and it's hard for her to get up. And she's the type of individual that doesn't start crying or falls into depression because of this. She actually laughs this situation off, and after this, we start to get to know her a little bit better, and we start to get to know about her life better. She doesn't tell us right away that she has multiple sclerosis, but that's the disease that she's battling with. And multiple sclerosis is where your nerves are pretty much attacked, and certain limbs start to become disabled, and you start to lose function in them. So that's what she's battling with throughout the essay. Her legs, one at a time, she starts to use functionality, and her different parts of her body. She gets tired a lot, and it's a very challenging thing. It's something that throughout the essay she tells us that there is no cure for it. It's something that she has to deal with. She goes through, within this essay, she actually goes through to a lot of doctors, and they don't really know what to do. There is no cure for MS. There's different ideas and different natural medicines and natural treatments that people try, and people go to different doctors all over the world to find a cure, but there's no textbook cure for multiple sclerosis. And it's something that she explains very thoroughly throughout her essay, because you go to a doctor. She tells us that she'll go to a doctor, and the doctors don't know what to do, because here's this woman that is struggling. She's losing function in her arms and legs. She gets tired a lot, and she has to deal with falling down and losing balance here and there. And there's nothing that they can do about it. They can do certain things here and there, or prescribe this and that, but there's nothing that can get rid of multiple sclerosis. So she tells us about that and how other people, other individuals with multiple sclerosis deal with it. And pretty much everybody finds a way to deal with it. She's not depressed. I mean, there are certain points within the essay where it seems depressing, but she's a person that doesn't look at the bad side of her disability. She tells us that she wasn't always crippled, and she tells us that in the essay that she wants to be called crippled. She doesn't like the disabled, or other words that label people with disabilities. She feels like cripple gets right to the point of what she has. Because her limbs are not working as they should, and she's just losing control of her body as time goes along. Multiple sclerosis is a disease, or something that just eats away at your nerves as time goes on. So it's something that it doesn't happen right away, or it's not going to kill you like abruptly, but it's something that you have to deal with. And it's something that she even tells us that you can't really get used to, because as soon as you get used to it, there's another symptom that comes along, or another um, you know disabling factor that comes along that you have to deal with. So Nancy Mayer, she looks at society in many different ways because of her disability. One thing that she tells us is how, because she's a woman, there's certain things that she has to deal with. As a woman, in American society or around the world, women have to be beautiful. Women have to be, picture perfect. Society loves women who, can be on a magazine cover. Women who are thin in shape, women, who can cook, who have a pretty face, and just perfect in every way, mind, body. That's what society looks for, and kind of she even tells us that in society, women, when you're in your late teens and your 20s and even some of your 30s, you kind of have to present yourself to society, to men, and to just your peers. And you always have to look presentable. You always have to look pretty because, women want to get married, and also you want approval from everybody around you. So you always have to look your best. And she's saying, like, with multiple sclerosis, she doesn't know, or it's challenging to see how other people look at her because she walks differently, she moves differently. Her shoulders are not aligned straight, and she judges how she looks and how other people see her. She thinks that she looks fine. She says that when she wants to, she can dress nice and make herself look presentable. But at the same time, she says that she's not the picture perfect woman. She's not the woman that's going to be picked to be on a magazine cover. And that says a lot because society, that's how society is. If you're pretty, if you're beautiful, if you have the right waist, you're going to be picked to be the next beauty queen, or to be in film, movies, news, or just everybody's gonna want to look at you. But if you have a disability, if you're not pretty, if you're overweight, if you have any blemish that the general society doesn't accept, you're pretty much pushed to the back of the line, and everybody's just looking down on you. So with multiple sclerosis, she has to look at life like this, and she even wonders throughout the essay, are certain people nice to her because she has multiple sclerosis? And she even goes to the point where she's saying that some people might act nice towards her because of the fact that she's disabled, and they just want to be nice, or if it wasn't for the disease, they wouldn't act the way that they act around her. And there is a lot of sense in that when when individuals see someone with a disability, or in a wheelchair, a lot of people want to be nice to them. A lot of people treat them differently, or a lot of people like want to swoop into action and help them out. When a lot of people with disabilities just want to be treated like everybody else, like a normal human being. But there's always people there trying to help her, and probably even looking down upon her, or even feeling bad for her. And she doesn't want that constantly. She wants to be a normal human being that's just accepted by society. Nancy Mairs, from the essay, she tells us that she has a normal life. She has a job. She's a writer. She's a teacher. She has kids. She has a husband, and she's lived a very comfortable life. And she's done a lot of things that she wanted to do with her life. She didn't, like, multiple sclerosis didn't start affecting her life until she was in her late 20s. So in her her teenage years, as a child, as an adult, her early years as an adult, she lived a pretty normal life. She said that she could swim, she could run, she could play sports. Everything that you would imagine a normal child or a normal 20-year-old female doing. She did all of that, and she's thankful because she got to enjoy those things. She got to live those things, and when she's crippled, she can look back at those times and even appreciate them more. And she's not taking that time for granted because she got to live them. And there's individuals that don't even have the chance to do that with multiple sclerosis. So she lived a very, she even tells us that, she doesn't hate herself. She's fighting a disease. She hates the disease. She doesn't hate herself. She tells us that, there are times where she faces depression, and she struggles with multiple sclerosis because she drops things here and there when she's cooking in the kitchen. Sometimes there's messy things that happen. But the things, like, her family is very supportive within the essay. Her kids are always, helping around the house. They help, clean and do chores around the house. Her husband is always there with her. She has friends. Her colleagues are always there to help her. So she lives a pretty normal life. It's just that it's something that she has to deal with. It's something, multiple sclerosis. Wow, multiple sclerosis is something that she has to deal with. Is something that she has to face, but it doesn't define her life, and that's one of the most important things within the essay is that she doesn't let the disease define her life and what she's doing with her life, because there's some individuals that have it, and because they're crippled, because they can't use certain body parts, they just lock themselves in their house. They work online. They order everything to be sent to them, and they just never let human eyes see them. They don't want to be judged, and they just spend their life in depression and just lock themselves from the outside world. And that's understandable because society can judge people when you are disabled, when you have something that you're dealing with. People are always quick to judge you, to look down upon you, and to feel bad for you. And as a human being, even if, when you're crippled, you still have emotions, and having people looking down upon you, or because sometimes when people see individuals who are crippled, they always want to jump into action and help them out. But sometimes individuals with disabilities, they know how to deal with daily things. They might not need help, but sometimes people don't even ask. They just jump into action. So individuals who are crippled, individuals who are disabled, they oftentimes hide from society. And she's saying that she's not that type of person, but she also tells us that if there was a cure, she would take it in a second. Um, she wants, in other ways, she wants to be normal, and anybody who's facing a disease or an illness or crippled, if you could have a chance to take a cure, you would take it in a second, because everyone wants to live a normal life. Everyone wants the ability to run, to do physical things, to climb, to be athletic. Every human being, wants that. Even people who are old or in their 80s and 90s, and they're up there in age, they reminisce about when they were in their 20s and their 30s, and when they could move and do certain things. It's something, eventually, every human being is going to look back in the past and think about when they were younger and they could do all types of things with their bodies and their minds. It's something that all humans deal with. But she's saying that even though that she's dealing with this disease, even though that it's impacted her life, she found a way to live on and to make something special out of her life. And she enjoys life in its special moments. And she's kind of happy that there are certain things that she doesn't have to deal with, because she's completely happy in her family. She's married, she has a family, she has grandkids, and she led a very happy life. So that's pretty much the essay. That's what happens in the essay. In terms of analysis and the deeper meaning of on being crippled is the way that Nancy Mairs, she tells us within the essay that she wants to be called crippled rather than disabled, because of the fact that crippled gets right to the point. When when a disabled person say that they're disabled or handicapped, there's always question marks after those words, because then people want specifics on what makes you disabled, and especially the word disabled. Nancy Merritt tells us, she tells us that it could be physically disabled or mentally disabled. So there's a lot of question marks around the word disabled, because there's so many different types of disabilities. But crippled, it specifically mentions, when you think about crippled, you think about a limb not working, a leg not working. So a physical bodily function that used to work that doesn't work anymore. So she likes that word better, and she specifically says that I wouldn't call any other person with MS crippled, but that's how she wants to be defined. So she's very specific in terms of the word in which she wants to define herself. And this essay kind of really, when you're looking at the deeper meaning of this essay, you really have to look at how society works within this essay, because her life, the only reason why she sees all the things that are wrong with her, all the things that make her stand out from the crowd, is because society just looks at her differently. So society judges her. Um, and what I mean by that is that whenever she goes out, whenever she's in public, people are looking at how she looks, how she walks, the shape of her body, the shape, everything that she does, and the fact that she uses a cane to get around. She's always being judged, and that's something that all human beings go with. You know, when you're in public and you see somebody in a wheelchair, you're looking at them and you're probably even thinking about you know, what made them crippled. Was it some type of accident? Did they fall off on a ladder or something? And you know, you always in the back of your mind, you're thinking about that person's disability and you wanted to know more and you want to ask questions, but that person might just want to, you know, live their day and not think about that 24/7. So society is always looking for imperfections, and you know, if you're overweight, if you don't look right, if you're, you know, too dark, um, too white, you know, no matter what, the if you're different in any way, society judges you and it impacts you in many ways because you're always thinking about those things that make you you know, stand out. And you know, because normal is something that society is obsessed with. Everybody wants to be normal, but normal's not, there's nothing fun about normal. um so Nancy Merritt just really breaks this down for us, and you know how she views the world and how society views her, and how, you know, she lived. You know, when we look at her bio, when you know, research her bio, she actually lived to reach her 70s. She you know, she thought that she was going to die, um, pretty much maybe like in her 40s or 50s, but she lived until her 70s. So she lived a very long, happy life, and she didn't let society decide what her life was going to be and who she was going, you know, to become. So it's very significant, and it really brings a different perspective to the world, and how things work. So that's pretty much the essay. That's pretty much what's depicted within it, and how she views the world. So that's my summary analysis of On Being Crippled by Nancy Mairs. Please remember to leave a like, subscribe, and or comment, and I'll see you guys in the next video.